Hello students, in this lesson we're going to start with the following question. Why is it such a bad move to castle now for the black pieces? If you have been following this course, if you went over the last few lessons, you should know the answer to this. At the level that you are, you need to understand not only why this is a strategic mistake, but you should also know how to take advantage of it. There's no immediate combination right now, but the fact that the black pieces have this pawn formation with the pawn on h6, which is considered a weakness, makes this move a huge mistake. And I really need you to understand this from both angles. If you're the black pieces and you're about to castle, you need to consider that. Okay, I have this pawn on h6, I know that it could be easily attacked if my opponent castles to the other side. Maybe I want to wait for them to commit first and then I castle. But also, if you're the white pieces and your opponent castled, even if you're not an attacking player, even if you don't like this kind of games, you should consider castling to the opposite side, because it's so easy to attack the castle king when you castle to the opposite side and they have this pawn structure. Now at this point, I know you still don't really know how to attack it, and that's why we're having this lesson. At this point in the course, you should already know how to attack when they have this pawn formation. You should know how to attack when they have this pawn formation, the fianchetto. And today we're going to finally go over how to attack when they have this pawn formation. I'm going to show you the entire game. I don't want to just focus on this position because there's a lot to learn from this game that we're going to learn from beginning to end, from the opening all the way to the end of the game. There are a lot of things that we can learn. So we're going to go over it quickly and we're going to focus on this part where they castle to the opposite side and attack. After today's lesson, guys, like I've been announcing so far, you're going to see me on the next video just playing games and using these ideas of the opposite side castling. So let's get started. I'm going to put everything back and we're going to review this game. So this game started with the moves pawn to e4, and I know the last two games that we analyzed, they were with the Sicilian defense. Well, this game that I chose for this lesson is actually with another popular opening, which is the French defense. So the main line here is pawn to d4, controlling the center, pawn to d5. This is the main idea behind the French. This is officially the French defense. After e6, they want to strike the center. There are many variations here that the white pieces could choose, but in this game, they went knight to c3, pawn takes, knight takes on e4, knight d7, knight f3. So far, just like in the other two games, they're just developing their pieces quickly and getting ready to castle. Bishop e7, bishop d3. Notice here, guys, how it's a little bit different. They're not giving priority to the queen side development. So it looks so far like they're going to castle to the king side. Now knight g to f6, and at this point the white pieces went knight e to g5. I have to say the most common continuation here is knight f6, knight takes, followed by queen e2. You should be familiar with this move. It's giving us the flexibility to castle to either side. But here, I think the reason why they did knight e to g5 is because they don't want to simplify the game. They're planning to attack and they want to keep as many pieces as they can on the board. Anyways, after knight e to g5, they attack the knight. And now you see, guys, that pawn formation, the pawn on h6. Many people see it as a good move. You know, you're attacking the knight, you're opening a escape window for your king. But from this lesson forward, guys, you should look at this with a different eye. You should know that that h6 is actually a weakness in many cases. It doesn't mean that you're never going to castle to that side and do h6. It's just that it's good to have it at the back of your head, and just keep that in mind. So after knight h3, and by the way, many times, guys, this h6 invites sacrifices by even bishops and knights. So just watch out for those sacrifices on h6. Now, after knight h3, they went pawn to c5, which, by the way, is the right way to go here. You have to put pressure on the white pieces center. So after c5, the white pieces went queen to e2, and now we get to the position that we had at the very beginning. It's the black pieces to move, and they decided to castle. Huge mistake. Now you're going to see how the white pieces, guys, they just focused on creating an opposite side castling attack. So after castling, they went bishop d2. There's no rush. After bishop d2, the black pieces took on d4, and now instead of wasting time taking that pawn, the white pieces are going to accelerate the attack. So take your time now here, pause the video if you need to, and see if you can come up with the next move for the white pieces. Well, guys, if you came up with castling to the queen side right now, it makes sense, but the move that they chose here is a move that not only does it make sense, and I want you to understand it, But this is the move that I mentioned this idea on lesson number 58, I think, where I told you that sometimes we push this pawn and we have someone behind it to protect it, but sometimes we don't really care if they take it. You know by now that we really don't want these pawns. They're the only ones preventing our rooks from putting pressure on the king. And by the way, before we go any further, guys, don't forget, this pawn structure, we need to attack it by making contact with the g pawn. He's the one who's going to create that tension. So after pawn to g4, the black pieces have to make one of two weaknesses. Either they allow us to make contact and open up that king, or they do what they did, which is taking the pawn. Now, taking the pawn simply creates a semi-open file for our rooks. So now we have everything we need to start putting pressure on that king. So after the knight took on g4, we're just going to go rook g1, putting pressure on it. Now, if the knight goes back to f6, can you guys find the best move for the white pieces? This is a huge mistake. How can we take advantage of it? Well, the move here is there's a pin on g7, so we could take this pawn. See, the h6 weakness is again the subject of many of our combinations. So bishop takes h6, and now we're going to continue to put pressure on g7. If the pawn moves, not only can we think of sacrificing, but we could even get that rook. So the knight did not go back. Instead, they activated the other knight and they kept this knight on g4. Now at this point, the white pieces went ahead and castled. As you can see, guys, we're not delaying castling for too long. We need the other rook to help. We need everyone involved, and our king should be in a safer spot. That way we don't have to worry about it. So after castling, the black pieces made another mistake. They went pawn to e5. Now here, I'm pretty sure they thought that they had a tactic. So they're calculating knight takes pawn, and if the queen takes, then the bishop is going to pick up on h3. But they actually missed something. They miscalculated this move. So the white pieces accepted it, and after knight takes e5, queen takes e5, the black pieces realized that this move would be a mistake. And you know I'm going to ask you guys to find the right move for whites here, but just know this is a move that you've seen already in the prior lessons. And I'm glad it happened in this game too, because I really need you to recognize the pattern and have these moves always at the back of your head. So let's do the things right, and instead of just looking for the best move, guys, try to at least come up with the top 3 candidate moves. 3 moves that you think we should look into. So pause the video and see if you can come up with at least 3 candidate moves. Now, candidate moves here that make sense, rook g3, trying to double up the rooks, maybe bishop takes h6, all of these moves make sense, but the strongest move is a move that we saw, I think on, 2 lessons ago. The move is actually sacrificing on g7. So rook would take on g7, if the king takes, then the other rook, you see, we castled, that way the rook that was doing nothing on the corner is ready to replace the other rook. We have check, the king has to go back to h8, and now after queen f4, we're going to come in with checkmate. Even if they did something like knight g8 to protect, we could sacrifice our rook, they cannot take with the rook, checkmate, and if they take with the king, we have queen a6, and they either get checkmated in a few moves or they have to give us a lot of material and we're going to be winning. So at this point, the black pieces did not take on h3, they just went bishop d6, and now here the white pieces still had the sacrifice on g7. And before I tell you the next move, this is what I really wanted you to see. I wanted you to see how the moment the white pieces saw this pawn formation with the king castled, they knew that they had to use the g-pawn to make contact, either to make contact or for the pawn to be captured and opening the file. And with that open file, we have to use it. There's no point in opening up files and lines and not using it. Look at these bishops and look at this rook. So they did not take on g7. That was a huge mistake for the white pieces. Instead, they took on d4. Now, after this move, we have bishop h2, attacking the rook, and I think the black pieces are just hoping that since we have to take care of the rook, they were hoping for us to trade queens and then save the rook. With the queens off the board, guys, the attack is not that effective. So if I'm being attacked like the black pieces are right now, I have to find ways to simplify the game. The less pieces they have, the less powerful the attack is going to be. However, they missed again the very powerful move, rook to g7. So rook g7 finally happened, and now the black pieces have only two options. Either they accept the sacrifice, or they just move to h8. Now, moving to h6 is not going to save them. We have so many ways to continue here. We could do queen e3 to take on h6. We could do queen h4 to take on h6 as well. We could even do rook h7 since this knight is pinned. But in this game, of course, they accepted it. And now we have this move, bishop h6. And instead of taking and exposing the king even more, the black pieces just went to h8. And in any case, we have the same idea. Queen h4, and this king is completely exposed. We're going to follow with a discover check by moving the bishop. The other rook is ready to come over. Look at this bishop. So there's nothing here that the white pieces could do. Anything like, I'm trying to think, just to give you some ideas. Let's say rook e8. Well, we could do bishop g5. Now, king g8, if they go king g7, I think we could do queen h6, king g8, followed by bishop f6. I'm attacking that queen, and I'm getting ready to do checkmate. If they had done king g8, I think we have the same move, attacking the queen and getting ready to do checkmate. Now, if they had done something like maybe knight h7, I guess bishop g5 still works, because we're threatening checkmate. I think we could do knight g5, anything. And that's the whole point, guys. If you get this far, where your opponent's king is exposed like this, we just have to get creative and use the tactical ideas that you know. So at this point, after queen h4, the black pieces just resigned. And there were many lines here, guys, that were worth looking into just to practice calculation and tactics. But the objective of this lesson is for you to understand what to do when the opponent's castled on opposite sides and they have this pawn formation. So with this, I'm going to finish this lesson, and next time we speak, it's going to be me just playing games and showing you how to use these ideas in actual games. So I'll see you guys next time. Like always, leave me any questions you might have in the comment section. Until next time.